Ladies and gentlemen, China and US have reached some form of agreement, but what do you mean by some form of agreement? And how does the stock market react to this? And more importantly, I've got some interesting news to announce tonight in the live stream. So please watch on until the end. I'll announce everything. So China and US, after 2 days of intensive negotiation, have reached an agreement to implement the agreement that's reached in Geneva. Now, that's quite funny, right? So they have basically arrived an agreement to implement the agreement that was agreed in Geneva a few weeks ago. But I think we should not downplay this agreement. Tonight, I'm going to have a very interesting topic called JB properties near the CIQ, the causeway, and what opportunities. Now, you may or may not know, but there is a ton of condominiums suddenly being launched, new developments near the causeway. And of course, this is in response to the uh, insane amount of people that are having interest in JB property near the causeway because of the RTS link. Now, what opportunities does this arise for all of us? Now, many of you say, yeah, JB property cannot invest, they cannot make money and things like that. Have your mind broadened a lot more than this, right? So there is a lot of opportunities knowing that a ton of Singaporeans are coming over to JB. What opportunities are there for all of us, right? So we should not miss this. Tonight, I'll do a live stream on this. So let's discuss, shall we? See you tonight around, either we have it earlier, okay, or have it quite late after 11. So we either have it between, 7 to 8 or at 11 to 12, okay, given my work schedule for Premium Mall. So let's discuss right now on what has happened. So these group of people, okay, three key musketeers from China and three key musketeers from US have agreed on a plan to ease export controls after trade talks in London. Now, London is a wonderful place because it's a neutral place and they play host really well, and that's quite important. And one day, hopefully, they'll come to Singapore. But the key thing is that they have come to some form of agreement. So US and China has agreed to a framework. Okay, a framework. Very important. The word is a framework. It's not a deal yet. It's a framework to restore the trade war truce. Now, that was agreed in Geneva a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, that Geneva deal kind of didn't get implemented, and things actually got worse. And Donald Trump and Xi Jinping got together in a phone call and basically said that they will have a talk to implement the Geneva deal. The group now has spoke together and implemented the deal. So in this new framework that has been agreed, export controls take center stage, no longer about tariff. Remember, there are a lot of trade barriers that can be implemented, not necessary tariff. And this is what economists call non-tariff barriers. And this is one of them, which is basically export control. So one side, the Chinese don't want to export the rare earth and minerals, and on the other side, the Americans don't want to export the chips and some other stuff. So both sides right now have come to a langgar, right? A clash. Langgar is a Malay word for clash, and this London talk has right now reached a framework to de-escalate all this tension on export controls. So the United States and China has agreed to a framework to implement their trade truce, said officials on both sides after concluding 2 days of talks in London to ease tension and export control restriction. Now, mind you, they started early in the morning and talked for about 14 hours. 14 hours. And by the time Secretary Ludik and his partner actually came out to give a briefing, it was at midnight time. So it was actually quite a long discussion. And the good thing is that both sides were discussing details of the framework. So basically, they are down to execution of the deal, right? So what we call execution details. So they basically, my guess is they probably said, we want to see this done, this done, this done, this done, this done, and those details took a long time to discuss. And I think it's good that they go down to this level of details. So I think right now the key is to see how, number one, the bosses will approve. Number two, how do they implement it? So officials on both sides will now take their proposal back to their leaders for approval. Commerce Secretary Ludik told the reporters in the meeting and said that if it's approved, we'll then implement the framework. While neither side disclosed any specifics of the deal, Ludik indicated that both have agreed to roll back export controls on goods and technologies that are critical to each other. China restriction of export of rare earth materials and magnets to US will be resolved as a fundamental part of the framework agreement, right? So this one is really US Achilles heels. So US thinks that you can bully China. I think it's a fat hope, right? When someone holds you by the cojones. So specifically, Secretary Ludik actually said that there's a number of measures that the US have put on when those rare earths were not coming in. In short, they retaliated. And those retaliations should come off as part of the deal in a measured and balanced way. So the key is right now, both these gentlemen, President Xi Jinping and President Trump, whether they will sign off the framework. My guess is they probably kept their bosses informed, and it's probably formality for them to go back. So I think they would agree to the agreement, to implement the agreed agreement. Okay, so it's really additional step for nothing, to my opinion. Unfortunately, there's, to be frank, nothing new in this agreement, except that it is basically an execution agreement. So the stock market didn't react quite excitedly to this. Right now, the futures market looks like it's slightly down. I would call this noise. I wouldn't say that this is a big stock market disappointment. But everybody is looking forward to how the market will respond. So if I look at the analyst opinion, let's take a few. The lack of reaction S&P futures suggests that achieving the framework agreement in Geneva was fully expected. Okay, so no big deal. Another person said even though the details are scanned, as long as both sides are talking, I think the market will be happy. Tensions will be de-escalated for now, but they will certainly escalate again. Take note, tensions might be de-escalated now, but they will certainly escalate again, right? So everybody knows that the storm is not over. The devil is going to be in the details. Way too early to say that we're establishing a cast iron right now, a new US-China trade agreement. And I want to say we are looking at US tariff on China goods like staying at 30%. Chinese tariff on US good at 10%. That would be fantastic. I feel that the US equities are overcooked, right? So overly optimistic. So right now, it's difficult to say. Even if trade were to continue, these restrictions are lifted. 30 and 10% is still not trivial. So I don't think that the best of days in terms of trade is here. But I think that the stock market has looked past this, and we're just less than 2% from the all-time high. Hitting all-time high is no longer will or will not for S&P 500 and other major index. I think that hitting all-time high is a matter of days or even even soon. Okay, so the S&P 500 right now is 6038. Okay, and it's about 1.8% from all-time high. The NASDAQ is 21,941, about a stone throw away from the 22,000 points, which is an all-time high as well. So hitting all-time high, in my opinion, it's a matter of days. So tonight I'll be announcing another good news of an important guest that I managed to invite on top of Endower's Chief Investment Officer that's coming on the 19th. So this will be another interesting guest I'm inviting. And everybody right now knows that we face a lot of risk and tension in US equities. So this time around, I managed to invite someone that can give us a global perspective and global options, okay? And I'll announce who this person is tonight. So remember, hit subscribe and don't miss this opportunity. And I'll also see whether there are any updates to the China-US talks. And then I'll give everybody an update as well tonight in the live stream. So remember, join us in the live stream as we discuss the JB property near CIQ, what opportunities are there. I didn't ask you to buy, okay, but I certainly think that there's a hell of opportunities that will rise, okay? let's watch tonight, and I'll see you tonight. Bye-bye.